How are you guys doing? Today is Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile for Kylian Mbappe. The elite French forward for PSG is coming off of an amazing World Cup performance in which he would win the Golden Boot and get the silver ball. And as his entire career is ahead of him, he is a player that's already won a lot and is very accomplished at this point. So, of course, I will take you through his career from the first moment that he would step foot on the field for Monaco to where he is right now as France's most important player on their national team and one of PSG's more storied and treasured players, and he's only 24, not even halfway through his 20s. Although Kylian Mbappe is definitely known for his speed, it's the fact that he uses his speed to basically bully his opponent into making a mistake, which allows the field to open up for him or for his teammates, not to mention the fact that he is still also one of the best finishers in the world, in addition to being one of the best dribblers and playmakers in open space, which makes him very dangerous if you're a defender on his side, and which makes his teammates very lucky to have him. So going back into his story, he would get called up for the Monaco team as a teenager after he would find himself getting moved to the Monaco team. He would get called up for the very first time for Monaco in his age 16 season in 2015-16. In that season, he would start 2 of the 11 games that he would play for a Monaco team that would finish 3rd in France. In that very first Ligue 1 season, he would finish with a goal and an assist. I would imagine being Monaco's youngest goal scorer at the time. In addition to that 1 goal and 1 assist that season, he would go on and play in 1 game in Monaco's run in the Coupe de France, as in this particular season, they would find themselves eventually get knocked out of the round of 16. This year in the Coupe de France, they would get knocked out by Sochaux. Sochaux would lose, or I guess they would go all the way to the semifinals. They would lose to Marseille, as Marseille would lose to PSG in the final. In Mbappe's second season in Monaco, in his age 17 season in 2016-17, he would start 17 of the 29 games he played in a season that would see Monaco win Ligue 1 for the first time since the year 2000. So it was a very historic year there. That season would see Mbappe finish with 15 goals and 7 assists in the French league, as he had started this season as a 17-year-old. Kylian Mbappe would score a couple of goals in a Coupe de France run that would see this French team get knocked out of the semi-final by PSG. PSG would go on to beat Angers in the final. In the tournament of the Coupe de la Ligue, which is the French League Cup, Monaco would go all the way to the finals. They would lose 4-1 to French giants PSG. This team would also qualify for Champions League. This Monaco team, in Mbappe's first season as a starter, would go all the way to the semifinals, where they would lose to Juventus, as Juventus would lose to Real Madrid. As in that Champions League season, Mbappe would finish with 6 goals in 9 matches. Remember, as a teenager. In the midst of Mbappe's breakout season with Monaco as an 18-year-old, he would officially get called up to the French national team in 2017, and he would find himself getting moved to PSG after he played a game with Monaco. In the 27-18 season, as an 18-year-old going on 19, he would start 24 of the 27 matches he would play for a PSG side that would go on and win the Ligue 1. This would be the 5th time that they had won it in a 6-year stretch, as of course the one hiccup within that streak would be when Monaco had won it. This would be one of very few years for PSG where they would win every single possible trophy in France, as first they would go on and win Ligue 1, as Mbappe would finish with 13 goals and 8 assists in his very first season playing with PSG, this time still playing as a teenager. He would be very helpful within their Coupe de France run, as he would finish with 4 goals and 5 matches played in a season where France would go on and win in the Coupe de France final over La RBA. France would see PSG win the Coupe de la Ligue, or the League Cup, as in the final this year they would beat Monaco 3-0, as Edinson and Cavani would score a brace in this game. In the Trophy des Champions, PSG would go and they would win the French Super Cup, beating Monaco 2-0 in the final. This year would be the 4th year in a row they won the Coupe de France, the 5th year in a row they won the League Cup and the French Super League Cup. Taking a look at how he would fare at the continental level, competing in the Champions League yet again, but this time for a stronger French team. Mbappe would finish with 4 goals and 3 assists in the 8 matches that he would play, in a run that would see PSG's run in the Champions League end at the round of 16. This year, PSG would lose to a Real Madrid side that would go all the way to the final and beat Liverpool 3-1. And following this exit, Kylian Mbappe would represent France at the FIFA World Cup, as he was a teenager when he would enter it, and of course he would get comparisons to Pelé, being one of the youngest players to score in the World Cup ever. He would enter this World Cup as like I said, a very inexperienced player in World Cup games, and even right now he's one of the most storied World Cup players of all time. Coming into the 2018 World Cup, France were one-time champs. In the 2018 World Cup, they would go on and beat Australia in the group stage. They would beat Peru 1-0 in their second group stage match, as Mbappe would score his very first World Cup goal in that game. France would draw 0-0 with Denmark in their third group stage matchup before they would face off against Argentina. In the round of 16, they would beat Argentina 4-3, as Mbappe would score 2 goals in that game. Uruguay would be France's next opponent in the quarterfinal, as France would beat them 2-0. France would beat Belgium 1-0 in the semifinal, and then they would beat Croatia 4-2 in the final, with Mbappe scoring their 4th and final goal. Kylian Mbappe's 4 goals in the World Cup would tie him with his teammate Antoine Griezmann, Romelu Lukaku from Belgium, Cristiano Ronaldo from Portugal, and Denis Cheryshev of Russia for the second most amount of goals in the tournament, behind Harry Kane's 6 goals. That 2018 final would rise Mbappe into superstardom, as now every single eye in the world would be on him. Following that 2018 World Cup win, he would go on and make the 2018 FIFA Pro World 11 as a teenager for the very first time. Following that, he would go on and enter what would be his second full season at PSG. In his age 19 season in 2018-19, he would start 24 of the 29 matches he played for a PSG team that would go on and win La Ligue 1 for the 2nd year in a row, and for the 6th time in a 7-year span. That season would see Mbappe finish with a career-high 33 goals in the 29 games he played, as he would finish with 7 assists, and only one of his 33 goals that year was a penalty kick, which is insane. Additionally, he would go on and add 2 goals in the Coupe de France, as this year France would end up losing in the final. This year, in that final, they would lose to Rennes off of penalty kicks. Regardless, they would go on and lose in the quarterfinal round of the League Cup. This year, they would go on and lose to a Guingamp side that would go all the way to the final, just to lose on penalty kicks to Strasbourg. In the French Super Cup, the Trophy des Champions, France would take that trophy away from Monaco, as they won it 4-0, with Angel Di Maria scoring 2 of the team's goals. In the Champions League that year, PSG would get knocked out in the round of 16 for the 3rd year in a row. This time, the team that would knock them out would be Manchester United. Manchester United would lose in the quarterfinals to Barcelona. Barcelona would lose in the semifinals to Liverpool, as Liverpool would beat Tottenham in the final to take home this Champions League title. Following that 2018-19 season, Mbappe would return to PSG for his 3rd season with the club, as in his age 20 season in 2019-2020. This would be a year, of course, where the COVID-19 pandemic would push the end of the season back. However, in the 20 games that he would play, he would go on and finish with 18 goals and the 5 assists that he would put up, as he would be the top goal scorer in Ligue 1 for the 2nd year in a row. In 2019-2020, PSG would win the Ligue 1 for the 3rd year in a row and for the 7th time in an 8-year stretch. Kylian Mbappe would also add 4 goals and an assist in a Coupe de France run. That would see Paris go all the way to the final and then eventually go on to beat their opponent, as their opponent in this game was Saint-Étienne, as Neymar would score the lone goal in that final. This year, they would also win the French League Cup. In the final, they would beat Lyon off of penalties, and then in their French Super Cup, the Trophée de Champion, they would beat Rennes 2-1, as Mbappe would score PSG's first goal that game. The very first time that they would make the Champions League final, PSG would end up losing in that particular final to Bayern Munich, as Bayern Munich was just a very strong side that year, as this was the year where the quarterfinals on, it was just one leg. Following PSG's Champions League final exit, Kylian Mbappe would return to PSG for his 4th season there. In his age 21 season in 2020-2021, he would start 27 of the 31 matchups he would play in a season where PSG would finish runners-up, as in this season, Lille would win the Ligue 1 for the 4th time in their history, and this would be what would be the 3rd time in a 10-year stretch, essentially, that they wouldn't win and finish in 2nd place, to give you a sense of how much PSG was dominating even when they weren't winning. In that 2021 season, Mbappe would finish with 27 goals and 7 assists, the 2nd time in his career that he would score 20 goals in Ligue 1. In 2021, he would go on and lead the league in scoring Ligue 1 for the 3rd year in a row. Outside of Ligue 1 that year, he would add 7 Coupe de France goals in 5 games, as this year PSG would go on and win the Coupe de France. In the final, they would go on and beat Monaco 2-0, as Mbappe would score the 2nd goal of the 2 against his former side. They would not have the Coupe de la Ligue, the League Cup, this year. However, in the French Super Cup, PSG would beat Marseille 2-1, as their 2 goals came from Mauro Icardi and Neymar. In the Champions League, this PSG team will go all the way to the semifinal, as in that round they would get knocked out by Manchester City. Manchester City would lose in the final to Chelsea that year, as in that Champions League season, Mbappe still would go on and add his 8 goals in the 10 games he played. So far to date, that is his highest scoring Champions League season, and this year he could definitely pass it. Going on into the summer of 2021, Kylian Mbappe would compete with France at the Euros, whereas he is the ultimate goal scorer in the World Cup. So far in the Euros, he has yet to score. France would end up getting bounced in the round of 16 after beating Germany and drawing with Hungary and Portugal in the group stage. France would end up losing off of penalties to Switzerland in a year where Italy would win the entire tournament. After getting bounced out of the Euros, Mbappe would return to PSG for his 5th season. In his age 22 season in 21-22, also the last full season he's finished to date, he would start 34 of the 35 games he's played for a PSG team that would go on and win Ligue 1 for what would be the 8th time in a 10-year span. In that 21-22 season, Mbappe would lead the Ligue 1 in goals with 28 and an assist with 17, as this was the season where Lionel Messi came to the team. In addition to his league-leading goal and assisting season, he was also able to add 5 goals in a Coupe de France run that would see PSG get knocked out in the round of 16. This year, PSG would find themselves getting knocked out by a Nice team that would go all the way to the final just to lose to Nantes. Their round of 16 exit would be their earliest exit since Mbappe had joined the team. And in the French Super Cup, they would lose in the Trophée de Champion to Lille 1-0, as Xhaka would score the lone goal of that game. In the round of 16 of the Champions League this past year, PSG would be knocked out by the Real Madrid team that would go on and win. After beating PSG, they would beat the top 3 teams in England. So, of course, that was the idea of the team that they were going up against very early. But, of course, following that 2021-22 season, that would see Mbappe also add 6 goals and 4 assists in the Champions League. That would lead us to this current season where he's in. Entering this most recent season, he would enter as a 5-time Ligue 1 champ, considering he won in his first season as a starter in Monaco. In this season, as a 23-year-old, so far he started 13 of the 14 games he's played for a PSG team that is currently sitting on top of the Ligue 1 as things stand right now, 5 points ahead of second place Lens. Right now, Mbappe is holding on to 12 goals and 2 assists in Ligue 1, as so far this season he is leading the league in goals, which is one more than Neymar. Within this particular season as well, Kylian Mbappe also has 7 Champions League goals and 3 assists in 6 games, as PSG is getting ready to face their toughest battle yet, as they are going to face off a Bayern Munich team that won all 6 of their group stage matches. So that's where he looks from a club level. This past World Cup, he would go on and make his very second appearance with France, as the World Cup would just literally end a couple days ago with Argentina beating France in the final. Kylian Mbappe would finish with the Golden Boot, as he had 8 goals and 2 assists in this past World Cup. Taking a look at how France would fare at the World Cup before they got bounced. In the group stage, they would beat Australia 4-0, as Mbappe scored his first goal there. They would beat Denmark 2-1, as Mbappe was scoring both of those goals. They would lose their last group stage matchup to Tunisia before entering the knockouts. In the round of 16, France would beat Poland 3-1, as Mbappe scored those 2 goals in the second half. After that, he was at 6 goals. He was at 5 goals. In the quarterfinal round, France would beat England 2-1. In the semifinal round, they would beat Morocco 2-0 in a season where Morocco would be the first African team to make it to the semis. And in the final, France would end up losing to Argentina on penalty kicks, as Kylian Mbappe would score a hat trick to make it 3-3. 2 of those goals were penalty kicks. And in the penalty shootout round, he would make his penalty kick there. However, it would end up being 2 other players for France that would not convert their goals. That would result in Argentina being the champs, as Coman and Tchouaméni would not convert their goals. But that currently leads us to where we are right now, as Mbappe is going to resume his season, and right now he's holding on to 12 goals in World Cup history. Only Lionel Messi is ahead of him in terms of active players, and I mean, it's very likely that Lionel Messi will play in the next World Cup, but there's a good chance that he won't, which means that Kylian Mbappe can make a clear run at the record. He's only 4 goals off, as Miroslav Klose from Germany holds it. So it'll be very interesting how the future of Kylian Mbappe will definitely shape the sport, as he, as an individual, is that dynamic where what he does and how he dominates will definitely impact the entire global sport. But of course, I can't wait to see how it happens. Of course, while he's still playing for PSG before he possibly goes somewhere else, or if he decides to stay with PSG all his entire life. I do want to wish Kylian Mbappe a happy 24th birthday. If you ever get a chance to watch him, he wears number 7 for PSG, and he wore number 10 for France this past year. I imagine he's going to keep it going forward. But thanks for listening. I hope all is well. I want to thank the Transfermarkt, the Football Reference sites, and even the Wikipedia articles that I'm using, because of course I can't get these stats by myself. I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with more tomorrow. Peace out.